Hi, I'm Jeni Gaston with Primitive Quilts and Projects. We're here again working on a project from our spring issue. It's by Michelle Joyner called This Is How We Roll. Gretchen and I have been teaching Kristen and Leah how to make the quilt, and today I'm going to teach how to do paper piecing and assembling the block. So the first step, you need to have your paper piecing foundation papers, and Kristen printed a lot of them out and cut them, and you just need to cut them a little bigger than the actual drawn line around the pattern. A half inch is really big enough, so I've got a pile of those, and then you need 2 and I think it's 3, I need to put my glasses on. It's 2 1/4 inch dark squares, and then you have your lights, which were 2 3/4 inch squares that have been cut diagonally in half, and those are for the corners. So the first thing you want to do is to get your machine ready, and you'll want to have your needle, your stitch length at 1.5, and what that does is it makes little teeny tiny stitches so that it makes preparation on the paper, so that whenever you're done making your block, you can just tear the paper right off, and it comes off really easy. So you'll want to set your machine for 1.5, and then you want to have a foot on your machine where you can see where you're going, so it's a nice clear shot. I have my 1/4 inch foot on, and it's not going to get in the way because I'm sewing on top of paper, but if you have a foot, just a regular foot that has a nice opening, you can see that works well too. So the first thing you want to do is to take the dark square, and you have to remember that what you see on the paper, the pattern, is the back side of the pattern, and you're going to be sewing on those lines, and the fabric's all going to go on the back side of the paper. So you want to take your square and put it on the back of your paper, and then I like to hold it up to a light, and then if I can see the shadow of the fabric and see that it's gone beyond those drawn lines, then I know I have it in the center, and I just want to hold on to that. You could put a pin there, or you could put a dab of fabric glue if you like. I tend to just hold it with my fingers. So then I know that the next place that I want to fill is the 2. So I'm going to lay my paper down, take a triangle, and I'm going to want it to be right sides together with that square. So I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to lay it down right here. And on the other side, there's a line going across there, so I know that I'm going to have a seam allowance, and it'll get sewn and folded back, and it'll look like that after you sew it. So I'm just going to line this triangle up with the edge of my square. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to sew on the line between 1 and 2. So I'm just going to get my machine ready and sew right on that line. If you've never done this, you'll want to go slow so that you can stay right on that line. And then I go a little bit beyond that line and then cut my thread. Now I'm ready to flip this back and press it. And if I flip it back before I press it, I can hold it back up to the light, and I can see that the new piece that I sewed on is going to go beyond that line, which is what you want. So now I'm ready to press that. First I want to set the seam by pressing it down, and then I'm going to flip it up and press it back like this. So this will be the right side, and this is the wrong side. So the next place I want to fill is 3. So I'm going to flip this over, and I know I need to fill a spot over here. So it's going to be like that when I'm done. So I'm going to flip this over and sew on the next line. Okay, time to flip that back and press it. forgot to set my iron on no steam. And I like to do that because if I use steam, then when my fabric dries from the steam, it may shrink. And then my block won't be the size I want it to be. All right, so there's how it looks so far. Next spot is 4, so I want to fill that space. I'm going to flip it over, put my next triangle on, line it up with that edge, flip it over. You could put a pin in if you like. I'm not much of a pinner, but I think that a lot of people like pins, and that's not a bad thing. I just kind of like to get moving. All right, flip it over. It's going to get pressed. Now when you come to this part, you'll see that you're going to have this excess fabric kind of in the way. I mean, you could keep going with it there, but it's going to cause some bulk behind your seams. So we're going to want to trim that off. And to do that, you're going to fold this paper back. It's going to fold right on that seam line, just like that. And you can pull these pieces like that right to the seam. So I'm going to fold it like this, put it down. And then you can use a ruler. I have a ruler, it's called the add a quarter ruler. It has a little lip on it, and that'll just rest right onto your paper, and then you can cut that excess fabric right off of there. So now it's nice and neat, except for that little piece there, and now it's ready to press. Didn't have to do it on the first two because there wasn't any excess fabric in the way, but the second two, you will have excess fabric in the way. Okay? It's shaping up. Next place is here, so I'll flip it. Whoops, so it is flipped over. Line the next piece up with the right sides together. Flip it over. Sew on the line. Okay, again, I want to get rid of some of this excess fabric. So I'm going to fold back the paper on that seam line, pull away those two pieces where I sewed past the drawn line, lay my add a quarter ruler on, cut off that extra. Nice and neat, ready to press. So, set that seam, press it back. And it's looking like a block. Now all we have to do is trim it up. So I'm going to flip it over on my cutting mat, take a ruler, and you're going to cut on all 4 of those drawn lines. A little harder to do it when you're sitting down. Don't have as much leverage when you're when you're sitting. Okay, and one more. And now you can see our pretty little block. Next thing you'll do is pull that paper out. And if you see how easy it is to pull it out, because you've got little holes already in it from your needle. And just peel it right off of there, and it's done. Now, in the directions, Michelle talks about chain piecing these, which makes it go really, really quick. Just put those out of my way. And how I would chain piece it is I would get, looks like I've got 2 squares here, so I'm just only going to be able to show you with that. I'm going to get 2 of my papers, 2 of my squares, And in this case, I might stick a little glue on the back of them. So I'll put a little dot of glue, and then I'll hold that up to my light. Make sure I have my fabric in the center pretty good. You see that? Okay, so I'll do that with both of them. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to move it a little bit. Okay, like that. All right, make sure you've got the wrong side against the paper. Okay, so the next thing I'll need is some rectangle or some triangles, and I'm gonna wanna line the first couple up. You could do a whole chain of these. Okay, so line up the first one, right sides together. Flip that over and start sewing. So that would be good if you set your machine so your needle automatically goes down when you're done sewing. Okay, so I got that sewn, but I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to get the next one ready. There's two. So I'm going to line that up. Flip it over. Close, and just keep sewing. And then if I had more, I'd keep feeding them through. Okay. Then after each of those steps, you can just clip those two pieces apart, press them, and go on to your next one. So that is how you can do that, nice and quick. All right, so that is how you do chain paper piecing. And I have another step to show you before we move on to the girls putting their blocks together. After you get all of these paper piece blocks together, you need to work on the sections that are the two strips sewn together. They're 5 1/4 inches long and 1 3/4 inches wide. You'll have a light and a dark. And it's easiest to do this also in a chain piecing method. So you'll put two together, right sides together. Get your others ready. And you can really get a quilt done nice and quick this way. Make sure you have right sides together. And then just start feeding them through. So you're gonna sew down one side, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Well, let's see, you're gonna wanna change your stitch length when you get here. Okay, back to your normal stitch length. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here's my next one. I'll just keep feeding them through. You're gonna want 4 of these sets for each block. So coming apart there. Another one ready. And that's how you chain piece. And after you get all 4 done, or you can do all of them for the whole quilt, just cut them apart, take them to your iron and press them so that the seam allowance goes toward the dark color. So it's easy if you put the dark color up on the top. Then when you open it up, you just have to press it back like this. And then the seam's automatically to the back, to the dark. All right, ready for the girls to sew.